Well, joining us now is George Eustice, who until Thursday was the Minister for Agriculture, Fisheries and Food. So thank you very much for coming on the show. Feels like the right week to have you for many reasons. We were just hearing there some of the concerns from farmers. The people that I speak to were very worried about the lack of clarity. They're also very worried about no deal. And they're not alone. I mean, we can just have a look now at something that the current president of the National Farmers Union said on this show. This is huge for every single person, and it's not understood what no deal means. It will be absolutely savage for us. I mean, are farmers right to be this worried?
No, they're wrong. I mean, it would be difficult, there would be some turbulence, but we've done huge amounts of planning for this eventuality. So the truth is we've already agreed that we'll have tariff rate suspensions on goods that we don't produce, things like citrus, so that we can keep prices stable. But we will also put in place tariffs to protect some of those sensitive sectors, including beef, including sheep, and possibly some of the dairy sectors as well. And we've also done a great deal of work in terms of how we can continue to get our exports into the European Union, making sure we've got the IT in place to do export health certificates, having some discussions with, for instance, authorities in Calais and French about how they would handle customs checks and border inspection posts. So,
I mean, you've been in this for months and months and months. You know what's happening behind the scenes when perhaps we on the outside don't have that clarity. So are food prices going to go up or down? Do we know?
We will be aiming through our tariff policy to keep food prices stable. But the truth is the biggest impact on food prices will be exchange rates. And if, for instance, there was, say, a 10% devaluation in sterling, well, that might increase food prices by about 2.5%. But just to put that into...
That could be quite a lot for people.
But to put it into context, food prices go up or down by 5 to 10% in any typical year. So it's a relatively small jolt, but it is nevertheless a jolt. And that's why we obviously want an agreement. That's preferable. And I'll be voting for the Prime Minister's agreement when it returns to the House. But we mustn't be fearful of leaving without an agreement if we can't get an agreement in place. The truth is the British Civil Service have done a sterling job in terms of making sure we are ready to leave. We're good to go if Parliament has the courage to decide to go. OK,
now you just said there that something we knew already, which is that you're going to vote for Theresa May's deal. So what I don't quite understand is why did you resign if you're going to vote for her deal anyway?
Well, you know, always in politics there's a question of where you can have most influence. And as a general rule, that's staying within government to try to influence policy. And you know, I've stuck with the government through a lot of undignified retreats over the last couple of years. But what happened last week, I think, was fundamentally different, because what effectively happened is that the government was taken hostage, and some cabinet members in government colluded in that hostage-taking. And so you have to ask the question, is it any longer worthwhile being in that government when we have weeks to go on the biggest decision this country's faced for half a century?
So who took the government hostage?
Well, there were... Parliament has, and very clearly.
And some members of the Cabinet, you're saying, as well, that remain supporting...
Some members of the Cabinet were clear that Parliament had to have a vote that would, as they put it, take no deal off the table. As soon as you take no deal off the table, you dramatically undermine your credibility as a country. You undermine Geoffrey Cox, who's trying to get some final changes to this. And I just think, fundamentally, that was a big mistake. But look, they've done it, and we are where we are. But for me...
Who's they?
Well, there were three who actually wrote an article. I can't quite remember which ones they were now, but to be honest, that's old news, last week's news. From my point of view, I just wanted to be free to participate in this debate at a critical hour, because I'll back the Prime Minister's deal. I hope that Geoffrey Cox can come back with some changes that will reassure others so that they might too. But, you know, if Parliament cannot accept this deal, we have to have the confidence and the courage as a country to walk away first and talk after. And the other thing about no deal is it doesn't mean no deal forevermore. It's a bit of a misnomer. No deal probably, in effect, means an informal transition period for 9 months. And we already know from all of our dealings with the European Union that pretty much across the piece, they are looking for informal arrangements where there'll be very little change for a period of 9 months. And that gives you a window in which talks could continue.
Now, according to reports, you gave the Prime Minister both barrels at a meeting with some of her and her other ministers last week. So what happened at that meeting? What did she say that got you so riled up?
Well, I don't think I did get riled up. I know I saw some of that I was irate. And look, I'm not going to go into the details of a meeting, but pretty much everything I said in my resignation letter was the points that I raised. I mean, the fundamental question is this. If Parliament takes no deal off the table and signals to the European Union that we're too scared as a country to walk out the door, and then demands that the Prime Minister go cap in hand to Brussels at the 11th hour, with maybe just 10 days to go, to beg for an extension, what happens next? The EU will dictate the terms of that extension. They will come back. They may say it has to be 2 years. They may say there has to be a very large financial cost to that extension. And what will Parliament do at that point, when it maybe at this stage has 3 or 4 days until Brexit Day, and it's faced with some impossible demands from the European Union? So I don't think those in Parliament who sought to frustrate this process and sought to create an option to delay Brexit have fully thought through what they're actually doing.
Do you think Theresa May listens more to the Remainers in her cabinet than she does the Brexit supporting ministers?
No, I don't think that's fair. I think the truth is Theresa May's had a very difficult task because from the beginning she's been undermined by those in Parliament who refuse to respect the referendum results, and there's a large number of them aiming for a second referendum, trying to frustrate this process. But she's also faced a European Union that's seen weakness, seen the lack of resolve from Parliament, sees that Parliament is trying to frustrate the process, and so has not been in any mood to negotiate in good faith. And the European Union have deliberately played games to drag this process out to make it difficult. And so the Prime Minister's had a very difficult hand. I don't dispute that. And as I said in my letter, she's shown a great deal of resilience and a great deal of tenacity. But you know what we need from all political leaders now, every MP in Parliament since they've taken control, is the courage to be willing to walk away.